Going here.
Oh,
Good
so
evening.
he'll be 26. Yeah, he's way too young to be 20 years apart like us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, September 10th. It's time to call this meeting of the Chelmsford Conservation Commission to order. My name is Carl Bischoff. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. We will be following the published and posted agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom. In the case of the Zoom not working properly, we will continue the meeting here in person only. It is also being broadcast and recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia and will be available on their website and on YouTube. So we will start with citizen concerns. We have one that we have on our agenda here. So we have Mr. Tom Siopes of 5 Baldwin Road looking at some questions about the ownership of Freeman Lake shoreline along Shore Drive. David, do you want to talk to this first, or Mr. Siopes here?
I thought he said he was going to be here in person. Let me see.
Probably looking for a parking spot.
Yeah, he's looking for parking.
It doesn't look like he's here.
Okay.
So maybe he forgot or
Okay.
decided not to come.
Well, I did go out there and look. I can, is that all right to talk about it just for a brief moment?
Sure.
I was out there today, and so Conservation Commission owns land right there on Shore Drive. We've actually granted an easement right in that general area a couple of years ago. The beach is right across from that area, and as I understand it, where he was looking to, that picture right there, where he was looking to do fishing, he's been told that that's not open to public fishing, and near as I can tell, it is. But there was a sign just prior to that that said not a public road beyond this, but it is Conservation Commission land right there, right across the street from that.
Well, I think it's in this location.
Yep,
right
that's
here.
exactly right there, yep. So, I know, David, we've talked about having, getting some surveying done around the properties of Freeman Lake.
Yes.
We've had a number of questions about the boundaries, so I think we just add this one to the list.
That's what I told him that would be done.
Yeah, and it's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take some time. We have to find the funding for that and the availability. Actually, probably the bigger thing is the availability of the surveyor.
Yes, but even before that, I think the title exam.
Title, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so let's move on then. Are there any other open citizen concerns, anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Anyone want to bring anything up? Don't see anything? Okay, so we will go to our report from our planning board liaison. Hello, Chris, good evening.
Good evening. Our meeting tomorrow is actually a pretty big agenda. We're going to be talking first. Our meeting's going to start at 6:30 with a work session. We'll be talking about our master plan items for the planning board, walking through some of those. Then we've got a new application for COID applicability question for 300 Billerica Road. We've got a minor modification that we're reviewing for the car wash at 191 Chelmsford Street. There slight changes to the footprint and moving the recirculation tanks. So we'll be looking at that, reviewing that. 150 North Road, we'll be reviewing again, probably closing that one out. And then we've got 10 Hildreth again on the agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay, any questions?
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Chris. Regulatory hearings, we have a notice of intent that was continued from August 27th at our last meeting, Town of Chelmsford DPW at Hugo Lane and State Street. And so we are looking for Tony and
Courtney.
Courtney. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Tony.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Tony Pucci, town engineer. So it was continued, as you had just mentioned. There were a couple of questions that were asked in that meeting, a couple of questions that were asked 6 weeks ago at the first meeting that we have some of the answers to. We have most of the answers, and we have a lot more work to do in some other areas that are outside of Hugo. So I kind of wanted to start with the Hugo Lane questions first.
Perfect.
If there's any other questions on that, we'll get through that and then address the other issues that were brought up from the last meeting. So does that work for everyone?
That makes sense, yep.
Okay, so David, do you mind bringing up Hugo Lane
Sure.
on the Geo app? So could you pan to the north and a little to the east? So one of the questions that was asked, that's perfect. One of the questions that was asked as if we're increasing the pipe size, that we're increasing flow that goes through the pipe. So the section of pipe that we're looking to replace is north of State Street from Hugo Lane. It is fed by 2 catch basins. The only water that goes in those catch basins is from impervious area on Hugo Lane itself. We're not doing any construction on Hugo Lane to increase impervious area. So the question, or people saying, are we increasing flow? The answer is no. We're not increasing any flow because we're not increasing any of the impervious area in that location. Question's been asked is why we're replacing the pipe. And so this was something I had done a few months ago, which is why we brought it as an NOI. So the 10-inch HDPE pipe that was installed has a maximum flow of 2.2 cubic feet per second. When you do engineering and we want to do pipe rehabilitation, as this was a failed corrugated metal pipe, the maximum flow that the corrugated metal pipe could have was 2.7 cubic feet per second. We never want to replace a pipe with something that does not at least match or increase the maximum flow that could go through the pipe. This is the whole reason why we're here before you, is to correct that 10-inch to a appropriate size pipe. And so going back to the 15-inch plastic pipe actually gives us a much larger flow of 6.6 cubic feet per second. That's just the maximum flow that can go through the pipe because we're going from corrugated metal, which has a really high friction factor, versus a plastic pipe, which is much less. Again, we're not increasing flow through the pipe. It's just that maximum capacity that can get in the pipe should be equal to or larger, which is why we're going with that 15-inch plastic versus the 10-inch plastic. A part of this project, when the wetlands were disrupted about a year and a half ago, in spring of 2023, there was some regrading that was done, and one of the neighbors or residents out there has noted that the water is kind of still at a standstill. And so in this process, there's a catch basin located in the back of State, little higher north. One more, David. Yes, that catch basin there. So we wanted to put in a riprap area of stone just to prevent what happened was as water was flowing, there's a bit of erosion that occurred and it's kind of blocking some of the water. And so part of this is just regrading that and putting in riprap to prevent future erosion and prevention of any water getting into that catch basin. That catch basin has been functioning like that since the 1960s. Again, we're not adding or changing any flow. We're going back to the original contours that were in that location. And so no flow increase on Hugo Lane in those 2 segments. As far as lining the pipe from that catch basin out to State Street, we are going from an 18-inch corrugated metal pipe to a 17-inch plus minus plastic pipe. The flow actually can increase to that again because of the friction, but we're not increasing flow. The flow that goes to there comes down Sands Place and from Hugo. Again, we're not increasing or changing any impervious area. We're just allowing flow to flow through the pipes. It was questioned or asked, is that going to increase or see increased volume or scouring down at Noble? The answer to that is no. It has to take a 90-degree turn when it gets into State, and then again another 90-degree turn through drain manholes and 24-inch and 30-inch RCP pipes, reinforced concrete pipes. Those are going to be the limiting factors. We're not touching those. We're not changing those. So the maximum flow that could have gone through those pipes previously, the same maximum flow can go through them now. No increase on that. Are there any questions from commissions, or if you want to ask anyone that just for clarification on just the Hugo Lane construction and process that we're discussing?
John, do you have any questions?
The only thing that bothers me is we have a number of people here in the room that feel they're going to be affected downstream.
I would like to talk about
What the
that.
town's doing, I think they're doing right, okay? Let's go with that. But we got to address the citizens that are paying taxes in the town,
Yep,
okay?
but,
That's a whole different ball.
right.
So, I
as
mean-
Tony said, let's parse
I
this out.
know, I know,
Yep,
I know what he said.
Yep,
But I'm saying there's people here that are concerned about it. So, I don't know. I'm happy with the size of the pipes. Everything's gonna be hunky-dory with the size of the pipes. The riprap, that's fine. I want to put this thing to bed the last meeting. That was my exact words. And then we had a lot of people. So, let's go with it.
okay, Bill?
I think he's gonna address that, hopefully. I feel the same way John does.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, just echoing my colleagues here. I mean, we want to just make sure that, that we're listening to the public and that, we're paying attention and want to make sure that they get action appropriately to correct their problems as well, too. And that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, I agree with everyone. Tony, I noticed that you stamped at least some of the drawings. So, I mean, this thing has got full attention of a licensed professional engineer. And I don't think, at least me as a committee member, I can add anything to that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
I'll just add, that Tony, you had mentioned that the current 10-inch pipe cannot accommodate the 25-year storm.
Right, and so that goes into that maximum flow capacity that you look at the 15-inch corrugated, the flow that could have gone through it, and when it was originally built, the design for, the 10-inch does not have the same capacity, and so that's why we want to replace it. And that's why we want to go back to the 15-inch that was originally installed in that location.
And if you don't go back to the 15-inch, Hugo Lane will flood.
There's
in a
potential.
25-year
There's
storm.
potential Hugo Lane would flood, not due to catch basins and flow volume going through the catch basin openings themselves, but due to the 10-inch pipe restricting flow, as it's not the correct size. And so that's why we're here, just to correct that from the 10-inch back to the 15.
So
Which it should have been, I will say, just should have been replaced like that to begin with. And in the future, when we do any type of pipe rehabilitation on failed pipes, corrugated metal, the number one thing is we don't downsize unless there's some conflict. And then we would go through all the engineering calculations to prove that flow can work in a smaller diameter pipe. So the minimum is use the same size pipe with a superior material. And that's a great place to start. And so that's what would be doing moving forward.
But certainly you don't want Hugo Lane to flood a 25-year storm, which is probably happening more often than 25 years now.
Yeah. Okay.
So, sorry.
Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I knew you were going to raise that, but I guess my question, Tony, without getting into a lot of detail.
Sure.
25-year storms, as we know, it's raining harder. Will the homeowners on Hugo still experience flooding in the street because it's raining harder than the traditional
Well, so I don't
25-year storm? How
have
do you think
record
about that?
now of Hugo Lane flooding, which means the way in the street. I'm not talking the yards, the back of the properties, just physically in the street. Outside of instances where we have 4 inches of rain coming down in half an hour, but the limiting factor to that is the catch basin. They only have so many openings, and water can't physically go down it any faster. So, with the pipe change that we're trying to go back to, the same issues that have ever occurred for the last 60 years, but that's a catch basin like orifice opening size that we can't change or correct. We don't want to just just add 4 more catch basins in every location just to accommodate 25 or 100-year storm events, as the whole town would just be littered with structures, and it's not feasible. So since we don't have record of Hugo Lane being underwater now during storms, we don't want to then create a problem where they could be. And that's why we want to go back to that 15-inch pipe size.
Yeah.
And I know with the increase in storms, and I know looking at the 2070 and how the 100-year storm event's going to increase from 7.6 inches to I think it's like 9.5 inches. That's a lot more water. That's a lot more volume that we'll have to deal with. Unfortunately, we can't design for a 100-year storm in the year 2070.
Right.
It's too far of an over-design for
Right.
catch basins and things of that nature. Now, if it was dams or things that are different type of infrastructure, that's what you design for.
Right.
But for catch basins and the pipe flow, you just use a 25-year storm event.
Yeah, so the takeaway is that the weather is changing and the town's scrambling to keep up. And there's no magic bullet because you're not going to design, for 50 years from now.
Correct. I mean, and this is also a very small area on just Hugo Lane that's in a much larger watershed that has, when we start talking about on Noble Drive and Freeman, I believe I sent David, there was 57 catch basins just in this area that all connect and drain into that location, let alone all the other areas that then pipe into this network. So it's a much larger thing. And so, but just this one, or this section where it's 2 catch basins to a manhole to another catch basin, I could say that just putting in that 15-inch, it shouldn't have any more increased flooding on Hugo Lane itself, on the roadway.
Thank you.
Okay, David, did you have anything else you wanted to add on this? I know we're going to talk about Noble.
No.
And I don't think I want to close the hearing until we have that discussion on Noble.
No, I don't have anything more to add on this particular aspect.
Okay. Sorry.
So let's shift gears then,
Sure.
if you want to talk
So,
Noble.
yeah, so residents have brought up flooding, erosion, and issues down on Noble Drive in between State, Lord, and Freeman. So in 2020, we had a stormwater master plan that was developed. This was flagged as one of the locations in town as a known flooding issue and a known flooding concern. It was number 4 out of 7. Some of the other ones that were on that list, we did a watershed study this year. It cost $270,000 for 3 watersheds, all of which are smaller than this watershed, and that's going to take about a year or so to complete, maybe 11 months. So I know there was discussion on could we do a watershed study or analysis for this watershed. It's going to cost over $115,000 to $130,000, and that is something we want to do. We are aware of it. It's been flagged from 2020, and so we know that's an issue. It's just we don't have the funding to go and do that right now, and so the top 2 priorities out of that flooding list are in the watersheds that are getting studied right now. So when that prioritization was done by Weston Sampson, this was given a 4 out of the 7. So not the highest priority, but it is a known flooding location that we do want to address. So with the residents coming out, since I've been here, I haven't received or had calls. We keep an incident log in the engineering department for all flooding concerns. Noble Drive was not a call-in or a concern, so we haven't really been looking into it outside of just knowing it's a larger flood area.
Okay.
Since the residents have brought it up, we have gone out there. I was out there yesterday. I know the stormwater superintendent was out there a couple weeks ago, and then he was out there again with me on Monday. Courtney's been out there. We've spoken to a lot of the residents. We came up with just a quick report just as we walked down it. We sent that to David, showing that on all of the outfalls, there are 6 in total, that they need riprap, they need to be armored. There's erosion that is occurring just around those. The ditch or drainage swale itself, for the age and how old it is in pretty good condition, but there is erosion that is happening on either side. This is happening all over town in all of our drainage swales, and so it's something that we want to look into further. But until we can identify all of the correct drainage paths, there are some catch basins we have mapped that just have outfalls or inlets going into them that aren't mapped to anything, so we want to have those cameraed. When we were out there on Monday, there was a light flow going through it. We went back into the manhole, tried to investigate it. We realized flow was coming from Bishop, not from Hugo or State. So again, this is where I could say the work and everything that we're proposing on Hugo, the water that's flowing through that ditch when we were out there on Monday isn't even coming from Hugo. It's coming from Bishop, which is that other section. We opened some manholes. We're doing some catch basins. We have a couple more things we want to camera. The stormwater department got their camera truck, say it was the 3rd Monday in August.
Just got it, yeah.
Yeah, and we have 50 different places that have been flagged over the last 8 months that we need to do investigations on. And now, I don't want to say, unfortunately, this is added to that long list, but we are going to make headway on it and get through it. But it's not something I can give you, this is our definitive plan, as we still need to figure out exactly what's out there, come up with what we can do outside of doing the riprap around the outfalls to prevent any further erosion. And then there's some evasives that might be in that location. We kind of want to clear it. I know the residents have brought that the swale itself, that ditch, has moved slightly in our 20-foot easement. I want to get our easement mapped out, look at it, see where it actually falls within those limits. I know there's a lot of tree growth now, so it's not something that we want to rip out roots and try to realign it, but it's really just protecting, maintaining where that is now. But I could go into all the different ideas that I want to do or we need funding to do. We just need time.
Yep.
And so that's something that we are going to try to look into more this fall, but I won't have any real answers or any even potential costs for what might need to be done until sometime in October, November, once we can get out there and really look at everything and have a better understanding of the entire network.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on that or specific questions as to how or what we would be trying to do?
I'm just going to look around, and then I'm going to ask for audience. Anybody in the, David, do you want to add?
Just add a few things. So I was out there with Courtney on Wednesday. Several of the neighbors were there. I thought we had a good meeting, good conversation about the issues, the concerns. It was very helpful to me see that I think it's actually, the concern is actually less of flooding than it is erosion. That it's certainly easy to see that the neighbors have lost, several feet of their backyards over the years, and that will continue. I think it's due to the volume and flow velocity within that ditch. I think it's a matter of, and I think this is essentially what Tony is saying as well. It's a matter of doing something short term to try to address, some of the immediate concerns, maybe the most serious ones, than doing something over the long term. In my opinion, this is not a jurisdictional wetland. so
Oh,
that,
okay.
so that a filing with the commission is not necessary
Okay.
to, address the issues. And, certainly DPW is well aware of what they are. I mean, they're not going to fill it in.
I also wouldn't downplay the flooding. I know a resident mentioned to me during heavier storms, it rises like 3 or 4 feet out there. So, and I know there is erosion, but as it rises and then recedes away, it is going to start pulling away from more of that. So that is something that, again, we want to look into a bit further. We do want to get out there when it is raining during at least the rainstorm of 1 inch or more and kind of just see what it looks like, get videos. We'll end up trying to do dye testing as well, just to make sure we know where all the outfalls are coming from. But again, it's just a much longer process than anything we could turn around within 2 weeks, let alone the funding or moving forward with projects and things of that nature, as most of our capital planning is done right now for next year. So if it's something that we can go through and identify, maybe we could try to move into it, or it might end up being a little bit farther down the line. But again, something we do want to address and we are going to work on.
Okay, Chris?
So just a comment, I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that, the town's listening. It's listening to the concerns that have been expressed. That what I'm hearing is we've got some short-term action that we can take, and we're going to take a good look at coming up with a long-term solution as well. And we're going to be, reporting back as progress is made. So I feel much more comfortable that this certainly is getting, the proper attention from people in the town. So I feel a lot better about this.
Anyone else? No
Oh,
comments?
he's perfect.
Okay. Why don't we get comments from the citizens, neighbors?
Alan Himway, 1 Hugo Lane, Chelmsford. I just want to let the committee know that we've never had a flooding problem on Hugo Lane as it was discussed. The water always flowed to the storm drains, even during, heavy rainstorm. That's never been an issue. And I think it pleases me that we'll go back to the 15-inch pipe, because the old corrugated pipe was 15-inch. It always worked until it obviously, 50 or 60 years old, it's degraded.
Yep.
So I think doing that, regrading it, creating the swales to its original, I think that should solve the whole problem, really. Because that's
Your whole problem. From your
Your whole
area.
problem.
my whole
Not the
problem.
noble. Well, Yep.
Yeah, no, not the noble. I mean,
Yep,
but
understood.
we're friends, the neighbors, so we want everybody's problem solved at the same. And I think this is the right way to do it. I don't know why the pipe was undersized if the original corrugated pipe was 15 inches, but at least that's solved. And so thank you for your time.
Thanks for your input. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Lynn Havener, 7 Noble Drive. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for performing due diligence and listening to the neighbors and not taking a quick vote on this. I appreciate that. I also want to thank David Kuntz for coming out last week, for taking that time, and for Courtney Thompson for also coming out and walking the area with me, my husband, and one of our neighbors. I also want to thank Courtney for coming back last week, actually this week, with Tony, and taking more notes and just getting a real sense of what's happening. And as Mr. Garrigan said, I too feel more comfortable now knowing that we're being heard. I'm all for our neighbors on Hugo having this issue resolved, as I said all along. And I just want to thank you for your time on this.
Thank you.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Okay. Anyone else? No? Nobody online? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close this hearing.
Motion from Chris. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to close the hearing passes.
I move that we issue an order of conditions. Do we need anything special, David?
I would recommend a couple of special conditions, although one of them is actually more standard, is to do the work in the absence of surface water, which hopefully can be done shortly. Do you have a sense of when you can get out there?
So we'd purchased the material. So the stormwater superintendent's waiting to get the order of conditions, and it's going to get scheduled next.
Okay, I should be able to get you that by the end of the week.
Perfect.
Latest. So, but and then just the other special condition is to work closely with me on reestablishing that drainage swale that goes into the catch basin.
And we request when we go set up everything that you go out there. That way we can pick out the location when we're doing our stockpiling of material. And so, not a problem.
Or me, I don't know whether that might be the last thing you do. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
When you how you want to sequence that.
Not a problem.
Those are the two special conditions.
Okay. Thanks. Any other conditions? No? Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion with those chairs, with those conditions.
Second.
Second from Bill, motion from Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so unanimous. So thank you. Appreciate all the work. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Courtney.
thank you, Tony,
Yep.
and Courtney.
And to the neighbors. That concludes our regulatory hearing portion of the evening. So, wow, that's about as early as we've ever had in probably a year or two. Okay, let's get on. We are going to talk now a little bit about the Chelmsford strategic plan. Also, we're going to talk about the May work session that we had a few months ago, and then we'll get into land management. I also want to talk about the open space plan progress. But Peter, we talked a little bit, you and I talked a little bit about the strategic plan. I know you're on that committee, so I did sign up to be interviewed by that group.
Excellent.
Next week, I think, representing the commission, because they like to have people representing boards do that, so that's happening.
Good.
If you want to talk for a few minutes on this?
Well, yeah, so, Carl, you'd welcome input,
Yes,
I gather?
absolutely.
So, yeah, a couple copies.
Any more coming down?
For you.
Want to hear some more
Vivian.
copies?
No, wait, I got enough.
More? Oh, good.
How many more? Yeah, I didn't get them all to you.
Excellent.
I'm sorry.
Good.
I got more. Do you need more?
I think we're good. We're pass those down.
Good. Yeah, so just quickly, you've probably heard about the strategic plan that the town is doing. Funding was authorized by town meeting. The select board's been driving this forward along with a committee and an outside consultant. It's really pretty simple. What's the town's vision for what we're gonna look like in 5 or 10 years? And let's come up with a document everybody more or less agrees to, that's kind of the North Star guiding light for town decisions. So I think this commission probably agrees with my statement that the conservation values that we're here to protect, the 8 interests of the act, are probably pretty important going forward as the town experiences more pressure from both development and climate. You know, all the stuff we deal with, really. So, there's a number of ways that you can express an opinion into this process. And there's also, well, there's a number of ways, and I'll describe those briefly. But, Carl, what I just handed you is the list of interview questions that I think Carl will be presented with. So he'll be talking to the consultant on behalf of the Concom. These are the questions that are supposed to guide that interview. So, Carl, with that, there is an opportunity here for each of us to weigh in on this process. And there's a couple of opportunities, and I'll defer to Carl for how you want to proceed. But one approach would be if you felt inclined to offer some ideas here, they could be offered to Carl, and Carl could, or we can help him assimilate those and present those at the interview. That's option A. Option B, as sort of a combined Conservation Commission point of view. And given the time constraints, I think, you know, and we know Carl, so I think we all would trust him to convey that information. The second approach, though, is each of us could respond to these 10 questions and submit them direct to the consultant that's doing the work. There is a third approach. There are 4 community meetings coming up, starting with a big ice cream gala and kind of a kickoff at the Elks Club on September 18th.
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah, and that actually is a work session, though. That's not really a party. And the consultant is going to organize people that are at the 18th into little work groups to come up with ideas and input to the planning process. So that is another way to make your voice heard. And there are some follow-up meetings in October, kind of the same idea. So 3 choices here. Carl can just carry the message for us with or without our input. The second approach is, as a citizen, you can certainly think about these questions and bring them to and submit them direct. And then the third approach is, with or without written responses, come to the 18th event or one of the 3 in October. So having said that, Carl, I don't know where you want to go.
Yeah, so
but,
what I'd think I'd like to do is, rather than going through this now,
Yeah.
these 10 questions now, is to, you guys have the sheet. If you want to send me either a phone call or an email, send me your thoughts on any, all 10, 3 of them, whatever makes sense, or just trust me to provide the Conservation Commission input. So, and then secondly, you're all totally welcome as individual citizens to send your own input directly in, as everyone in town is welcome to do. So, John?
I think what we just went through tonight is one of the things. The citizens that were here previous to this meeting was a lot more on Hugo Lane. There was a lot of concerns over there. But what we just did, we sort of smoothed it over, I guess, enough for everybody to be happy.
I'm not sure, the smooth it over, it means to me like we kind of buried it, but
No, we
maybe
didn't
that,
bury
yeah,
it.
and we didn't,
We
yeah,
didn't
we
bury
addressed it, yeah.
We addressed it.
The town, yeah,
They're paying taxes,
yeah, no, I know what you meant.
and, no, I feel for the,
Yeah,
you
yep, yep.
But-
And it's indicative to, I think, to what Peter's talking about is, in the long term, we're gonna keep seeing this. This is,
you're right.
and so from a strategic point of view,
Yeah.
what things could we be doing? And it's in these questions, various ways to answer those questions, to say, what things could the town be doing that can help, I guess, help mitigate some of those issues from getting worse? How do we get ahead of
I mean,
them?
I just personally, I mean, the more we can do to maintain green space, the more we can do to maintain trees and, protect the environment, whatever actions we can take to conserve water and things like that, we come up with policies along those lines, it'd be good.
Yeah, and the reason that I was sort of lobbying everybody to weigh in is picture a consultant that does this kind of thing. We like them, coupled with the 10-member committee, looking at this question, what's important? So what's on our fellow citizens' top of mind, right? Taxes, schools, traffic,
Taxes,
inflation. I mean,
all taxes.
Okay. But here's my pitch. I don't think the town, this is just my opinion, and I'm looking for somebody to disagree with me, not now, but later. But my thought is, the town really can't do a whole lot for traffic. I mean, a little bit, but we can't stop the flow of cars and trucks through town. Secondly, housing, well, okay, we can bear down more on affordable housing units, but as far as housing values, my kid can't afford to live here, I'm not sure the town has any real influence. Taxes, I don't know. I mean, for town taxes, what are you gonna do, cut services? I mean, I don't see that we have a ton of input. And then I get to all of the environmental stuff, sustainability stuff the planning board considers, stuff this commission considers, the tree stuff, all of that quality of life thing related to the environment, cooler temperatures if we have more trees, less flooding if we have good flood management, the whole story. Those are issues that are changing that I think we can highly influence as a town by making careful decisions as we approve of new projects and as we, hopefully continue acquiring more land. So my thought is, it's important to have that voice into the strategic plan. Higher pay grades are going to figure out how to prioritize it. But a lot of the stuff we work with, there's a little bit, is pretty much out of sight and out of mind, I think, until there's a problem like Noble Drive, And then all of a sudden people are like, well, why is it raining more? And how come this is happening? Well, it's because, and so I think the town is in a position to really steer that issue going forward. So that's why it's important to me that our collective voice gets heard. And that's my pitch, to come to some of these meetings.
Which is why I
fill
think it's
this out.
important that we have both a commission voice and also as individuals, we can make,
Right, because it's two
You
different
can,
things.
you can still complain about taxes and anything else,
Right.
traffic, that's totally
As
fine.
a board,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
concerned about
Yeah,
conservation
right,
issues.
right, but
As
you
a,
can
as
also
a
complain about,
taxpayer,
yeah.
a lot of other things come into play.
Yeah.
So it's two different opinions.
Yeah, yeah, and so once again, if you choose to answer this on your own, I mean, make your own decisions. But the way I looked at it is, hey, there's some things I can't change. I can complain about taxes as well as the next guy, but like, what do I really expect the town to do? I mean, keep a lid on it, yeah, but don't go crazy, of course, but I think we're already there. What else do we need to have the town do over the next 5 or 10 years on taxes? And so, when I rank these things, I put some of those things kind of low, even though they're actually very important to me. But again, it's personal.
What's actionable?
What's actionable?
And also, I think a lot has to do with helping commissions like us, select board, planning board, school board, when they see the strategy, it helps them make decisions by knowing what the strategy is. It helps guide them in their decision-making. Hey, they can point to the strategy that was developed and be able to not have to kind of reinvent the
Right.
wheel every time, but,
Right.
so I
And-
think
and
that's helpful.
And I guess, Carl, just before I yield the floor here, my last sort of pitch is, this commission is in a wonderful position to respond to some of these questions. What does the town do well? What does the town not do well? Because we have sort of a broad view, through the commission activity. So I really thought you all in particular would be excellent people to comment on all of these things and get that into the consultant, helping us formulate the future plan. So, yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions that I could help with.
So does this approach make sense?
Absolutely. We'll feed our comments into you. That way you can reflect the commission
Yep.
as a whole, and then we're still free to, follow up on our own individual concerns if they're different.
Well, even the last few applicants that came before us, things that we never considered before, like PFAS and that.
Right.
We need direction going forward, how a project comes in, how we're going to address those issues and be consistent, because it's a new thing now.
Yep.
And the fact that you reach sewer capacity, people are putting septic tanks in, or
Talking about it at least.
those type of fields in.
Yeah.
We have to have some kind of direction that's consistent.
Yeah.
And there's a home for that, what's the town doing well, what's the town perhaps not doing well on these new issues. No one's doing a good job on, right, out there in the community, so I mean, there's no harm in pointing that out.
Right. Well, I think one board doesn't know what the other board is looking for because it's all new. So we have to be on the same page, going in the same direction.
Correct, but, we got a ton of these issues, right, the flooding, the PFAS, all the habitat stuff that's lurking beneath the surface.
Right.
A lot of people cutting trees because they're afraid it's going to fall in their house, and on the other hand, we're losing canopy left and right, tree canopy in town, so.
That's their priority, though.
Yeah, sure.
The person is paying taxes.
Totally.
They have a tree, they can cut it. Okay? You can't control certain things.
Yeah,
You
no,
have to realize there's people out there that want to do things, and you can't say no for certain things, for
You're-
cutting a tree down,
yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
all right? I mean,
You're preaching to the choir.
willow trees aren't trees. And I'm going to stick with that,
I knew you were going to talk about willow trees. I knew it.
and I'm going to
Willow
stick with
trees are
that.
very beneficial to the
No,
environment.
they're not.
Yes, they are.
They're not.
The science says they are.
Why are they not allowed?
Call my wife.
Because they're not good for the, let's not get into it. So,
Well,
let's
no,
keep
this
moving.
is debate, right?
No,
Let's,
it's not a debate.
I'm just getting
The
prepared for
value of
tonight.
willow trees, so.
We'll be
so-
muting the mic soon, I guess.
Yeah.
Who brought the
so-
trees up?
Yeah, so we'll,
didn't say
any further
trees.
discussion on this? Anything else? Anybody want to add any more? We good?
Good.
Good.
Okay.
You're good as long as you don't talk about willow trees, Kyle. You have my full support.
I didn't say plant them in the center of town.
can't plant
though,
them.
So,
It's against the law.
okay.
Weeping willows.
So, the next issue on the agenda is reviewing the May work session. So if you recall, back in May, we took an extra meeting into our agenda, into our sessions.
The
and
minutes
we
are up on the
talked
screen.
What's that?
The minutes of that meeting are up on
Oh,
the screen.
thank you. And I actually made some notes on that, so I think I have most of that. So we talked about a number of things in that meeting, and I kind of just want to run through some of them and kind of just refresh with the commission on what's working well, what we've improved on, what things are still open. Actually, I might just start by, we talked about the 8 interests, and thank you, Peter, for staying on top of this, but this is in the CMR, 310 CMR 10 purpose. So the 8 interests are protection of public and private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, protection of land containing shellfish, protection of fisheries, and protection of wildlife habitat. So those are the 8 interests that the Conservation Commission hold. And so that's kind of like our, I don't know, what's that, our North Star or something like that, that we keep in our minds. So when we talk about this, there were some tactical things we talked about, like things like delivery of materials to David by the agent by Wednesday, plans, abutter letters, things like that, that we need to get this kind of information. And David, your comments to me have been that it's working pretty well, and you're able to use this with applicants to help. I'm seeing nodding, so good.
Yes.
Okay. Any? It seems to be helping out a bit.
It is.
Having that. Okay,
Yep.
good. Another one we talked about was the peer review process, and that there was an ask that we would include our discussions with the peer reviewer in the meeting, in our hearings, have an opportunity to make that, and I think I've seen that happening a number of times. We've been doing that. I know we've had a number of peer reviews in the last, since our May meeting, we've had a number of different ones, and I think we've generally had some very good ones that have done some good work here. I don't know if there's any other comments on peer review, any other changes or progress or impressions? Nothing? Okay. Requirements for engineering plans and having printed copies. We are seeing printed copies. That's been a plus. That's really
plus.
good. And also making sure that our applicants are giving us stamped engineering plans. We're seeing that pretty consistently, or I will say consistently. Any comment there? I don't think there's any issue there. That's been going well. Working the questions around the commission members, making sure everybody's asking questions, but not too many questions. I think that's been going, I think that's been going pretty well.
Yeah, seems good.
Okay. Summarizing what's needed for the next session when a hearing is continued, and also the number of continuations. We're still seeing continuations being a lot, but I think we're reining it in a bit. I think we're doing better at summarizing what is the deliverable to get to the next session, the next continued hearing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot less rehashing of the same old stuff over and over again. So I think we're making progress there.
Improved there,
Yeah.
Good. Permitting conditions, we talked about that there's the 21-day window after the vote, but that we want to make sure that conditions are be reviewed during the hearing, and the hearing shouldn't be closed before the hearings are reviewed by the commission and the applicant. And I know we had a couple of, back a while, that's why that came up, but I don't think we've had any issues since then. I think we're refreshing on that. I think that's going well.
Yep.
The open things that we either are not able to get to, or for whatever, I show were the document retrieval improvements. There's opportunity there to do some things better, but I think that really rears its head when we have these big projects, and that's when that gets to be a challenge. The other one was, we talked about the old certificate of compliances that keep popping up, especially when we have condo associations, that there might be partial certificate of compliances, but the full project doesn't have one. Somebody goes to sell their unit, and it just gets to be kind of ugly. We don't have a project to go start working through that. We haven't done anything there, I don't think.
Correct.
If we had a resource that could, was interested in, an intern or a senior citizen, that might be something to work through. You and I can talk about trying to make that happen, or talk to, is it Trish that manages, who manages the senior citizens that do those kinds
I
of?
think it is the town clerk,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, so if we think we want to do that, it's one of those things that every time it comes up, we say this, and then it goes away for a few weeks or months. And the last thing was, we talked about delineations in winter conditions, and that we might want to adjust that. I'm trying to remember that discussion. I don't remember it too much, but that we would have to adjust bylaws and regulations. Was that something we were looking to do, or we thought we might need to do, or?
I think, here it's up there, but, and will be reviewed. I should remember off the top of my head what the regulations currently says or say. I think it says it's really up to the commission's discretion, working with its consultants, whether it's possible to do a delineation in the winter. Of course, we're certainly seeing a lot less snow. The issue is more snow than anything else. Of
Yeah.
course, if the soil is frozen, that's tough to do as well. But yeah, I think I know I was planning to go back and review specifically what the regulations say about wintertime delineations, and I've been remiss in not doing that.
And it's a particular issue for vernal pools, right?
Well,
Time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't confirm a vernal pool in the winter, that's for sure, or any other time but the spring.
So that one, apparently it's not super hot, so if we want to get to it and do something, we can do that. But was there anything else that that I missed, or that was in there, or anything that, or outside of this, if somebody sees something that we want to make some improvement or change or do better or start doing, keep doing?
I think you summarized it pretty well, Carl.
There was, Carl, it might be worth just mentioning, but not spending time on. One of the headings here was dependency on other town boards and departments. And when we got together in May, we realized the gap analysis was being worked on by DPW.
I skipped over it. It was
Yeah.
it was in my list, yeah.
So that's in the works, is, I think, probably all
It
we
is.
need
I
to
know
say.
Christine gives this update to the select board that is now in process. They have a consultant, I think, and they're working this with the Board of Health, but we haven't been pulled in yet, and I'm hoping we will, because I think that's really important for us. I think
Right.
that gap analysis, because as we go to our 8 interests, a lot of that is about water. And then that gap analysis about how do we look to prevention of pollution, for example, when we don't really have a bylaw
Right.
other than an interest. But the Board of Health has a bylaw, and, or they have regulations. So that to me is important, and then figure out how we can work with the Board of Health. For example, do we ask them for can we get your report?
Right.
So,
And perhaps the takeaway is, I assume we'll be invited to the commission to participate
I
in
was
some
told we
fashion.
would be. Yeah, I was told we would be, yeah.
So that would be helpful for us to define, like, for example, one of our interests we're supposed to protect is pollution. We don't have any bylaws. I don't know if the Board of Health really does, but I mean, what does that really mean? That's, I think, what will probably, the gap analysis will help flush some of that out.
That's what I'm hoping, yep. Okay. Okay, that's all I had there.
I think it's good to review this every few months, so we can add to it if something comes up, but just to check,
Reminder.
are we helping him out? Are we helping David out? Are we helping
He's
ourselves
going home
out?
early now, he's got so much time.
Right. But I mean, I think it's good to just bring it up and discuss it
Yep.
for 10, 15 minutes every so often.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's keep moving on. Open Space and Rec Plan Committee, a lot of progress going on there. The survey has closed. The data and results and analysis are being reviewed. We have a meeting a week from tonight, and we will go through that. We do have the data. We're looking at it. There is a lot of activity going on the assessment of accessibility of open spaces across town. My friend here in the audience, Mr. Sperry, is extraordinarily busy with that, and a number of other people were working with the Commission on Disabilities with their team and some volunteers to make that happen, but there's a lot involved there. I know, Peter, your sub-team is working the chapters 2, 3, 4, I think it is, and making really good progress, and it's coming along good. The NEMCOG folks have done a great job helping us moving forward. We're making progress. I think we're going to get it, into the, end of the year. What am I missing? Anything else I'm missing, Peter or David?
No.
I think they're going to have a draft of the new plan for the October.
Okay.
I think that's on the schedule.
October.
Yes, the October committee meeting.
Yeah. I think, Carl, this isn't the right forum, but I've been thinking about, NIMCOG is doing what they were asked to do, is to use the results of the community survey to help establish some goals. But I think there was only 100 some odd respondents to the community survey.
I thought it was in the 400 range.
Was it 400? I must have seen an old version.
That's what I heard was 400.
All right. That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, I think that's a good number.
Okay, I'll table this.
Yeah.
I guess all I want to say is there's a bunch of things that we all are interested in that they're important, but not necessarily come through on the
Yeah,
survey.
well, and
Because
the
public isn't-
survey is one of the inputs that we're
Yeah.
using, and we are going to be looking at setting goals at our next meeting.
Yeah, and so I guess I should know, Carl, but what is the process for commissioners to weigh in, other than the surveys and whatnot? Are we going to have a draft review process that?
I think the commission does review it at some point, because it's a
Well,
subcommittee.
it's, the standard process is for the commission to review it after it's basically written. But I think I think the commission should really review a draft.
Okay,
And we should talk about that at the next meeting. Or
Okay.
maybe the meeting where it's presented.
Yeah, because we need to be sure everybody's interests are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
okay, continual business, we don't have anything in there.
No. That's, I guess.
Land management, so progress on the right reservation walkway, we got 6 out of 12 of the sections that we have in Phase 1. You can see right there's a picture. So we're making really good progress. Tomorrow morning, early in the morning, we'll be putting another 6 of those down, and that'll be half of the implementation. The other half will probably not be until October. We got to take a little break. This is taking a lot of time. So, but
That looks good.
it's coming good. It's
Really
really good. It's also, we recognized, walking on the older one, that it needs some attention. It's in, I'd call it fair shape, but I think with a fair amount of attention, we can get it back into very good shape.
That's a great design.
It's really.
I mean, I'm thinking something like that, like Crooked Spring,
Exactly,
Would be
yeah.
perfect out of Crooked Spring.
You might need a 20-inch pipe.
A little bigger, yeah, a little bigger,
Instead
but
of an
still.
8-inch pipe.
But that design is great.
But yeah, it's pretty clever, yeah. Again, we stole that, Dave Sperry copied it from Bedford, the Bedford Trails Committee, and it's like, hey, that's pretty good, so.
So any feedback from our design and construction team?
Love it. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that we can build all of that at the Warren Pole barn
Right.
and then just deliver it
Right.
and put it in place.
Right.
I mean, all that happened Saturday morning from 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock.
Wow,
And
wow.
that's pretty good. Now,
great.
it was weeks of building and planning and, cutting and, and almost all of it's Steve Mayotte. But, yeah, it's going good. It's going good, and we like the concept. Coolest, we should visit the site as a group. I keep saying that. We need to make that happen. I thought we were gonna do it a couple times this summer, and of course, summer is not a really good time to schedule time. I'd like to wait till Mark gets back, so I'm not sure how long he's gone. I know he's not.
No, he's going for the night.
Oh, just tonight, okay, all right. So, any chance we could go Thursday this week? Like 4 o'clock?
Thursday of this week?
I'm in Boston Thursday.
Okay, maybe, I'm not gonna be here at the next meeting. I'm gone for 2 weeks out of the country, so, and next week's already pretty busy, so maybe we'll get to it in October. Maybe we'll get to it in October, okay. Update on
Get
Warren.
to it after frost.
Huh?
Get to it after a frost.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be easier to get
think
around
you-
in places, yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
you're better off after frost.
Okay. Warren Poll, I happened to run into, I was there last week, actually, I was there getting ready for Saturday, but I was at Warren Poll on Friday afternoon, and I saw the Oxbow guy doing the wetlands flagging on the main meadow area, so that was good to see. That's getting either complete, he might have been finishing it that day. What's interesting is that whole middle meadow is wetland, the whole front to back, left to right, from stone wall to stone wall. It's all wetland. Interesting. Tomorrow, David and I are meeting, if anybody wants to join us, we are going to be meeting Kate Benson from the state DER, Department of Ecological Restoration. She's just offered to come and take a look at that site, at the fact that we're trying to, restore this meadow area, and she was going to come a few weeks ago, but she wasn't feeling well. I met her back at the MACC meeting back in March. She's done this kind of work elsewhere in the state, so we're going to just have a visit with her at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So you're welcome to join us. We are still waiting for KP Law to review the CR.
I'm aiming to email that to them next week.
Okay,
So
I know you're parsing things with them, I understand.
Yes, but I think there's enough of a lull now, so that
Okay.
I think next week will work.
Okay, and the only other thing was the trails were cut the other day by Steve Mayotte. This was after we did the thing right on Saturday. He went out Sunday and cut the trails at Warren Poll, and Christine and I and Dave Sperry was there. We did walk the site a couple weeks ago, looking for trees that we discussed here to have the DPW's chainsaw training done. And we can pretty much do it all at Warren Poll. There's enough there near the trails. But that's not until late October when that will happen.
So the only thing I'll add is that DPW, actually Trevor at DPW, is producing the as-built plan.
I saw him there too.
Oh, did you?
I happened to run into him. He was doing the yep, he's on it, so
So
that's
that,
good.
that,
Good
that'll be
progress
good to
there.
have. Yep.
Thanks, I forgot I saw him there. Okay, anything else, agents report?
So, which is basically an extension of land management, is there are a number of parcels now where either fallen trees have to be removed, or abutters are concerned about dead and dying trees that they feel need to come down. So I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. There was a tree that came down on a at 13 Green Valley Drive, which abuts right.
Right, yeah.
So that tree is being removed on Thursday at 144 Parker. The commission may recall that there was a tree that came down, I guess probably a couple of years ago, from right onto that property. That has been removed, but there was also concern with a couple of dead trees on right, which the abutters are concerned about. I'm in the process of having them get estimates or price quotes to get those two removed. There's at 94 Meadowbrook Road. I got a call a couple days ago from those residents that a rather large tree on that abutting conservation land has come down and came down right on top of their fence. So it should be pretty consistent with policy for the commission to pay to have that tree removed, but they're also asking for the town to pay for having the fence restored. So probably a conversation we'll have to have
Okay.
at some point. And I think there was, and the trees have been removed at Old Stage Road. That work was done.
Okay.
And on Warren Poll, there's a tree, or tree branch
Yeah.
that came down
It
into.
has not been removed.
And I'm going to plan to meet with a tree service out there, get an estimate. I think that probably should be cheap enough, so maybe we don't have to get three estimates.
Okay, next thing is order of conditions, re-signing 129-0665, 1 Lakeside Avenue.
Yes, that's the first one. There's also another one that didn't make it to the agenda. But this one's just the re-signing. Yeah, 3 of you already have signed it. So that doesn't need a vote. But speaking of old certificates of compliance, one Lakeside Avenue, which was construction of a new house, that order of conditions, I think, was issued back in 2015 or something like that. So that property is being sold, and
Thanks, John.
they need a certificate of compliance.
I'm sorry.
This is 1 Lakeside Avenue,
Oh, okay.
which that house was built about 10 years ago, and the property's being sold. They need a certificate of compliance on that one. So it turns out that it appears that the commission actually issued that previously, or at least I found a signed, a copy of a signed COC in the files, but I guess maybe it never got recorded. So,
So they have to record it.
yeah, but that one, I think it would be better to take a vote on.
That would be the 1 Lakeside Ave?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's.
So what is it that we just signed?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was Lakeside Avenue. I'm sorry, got a little bit confused. So the other one, which is 265 Chelmsford Street, that was issued back in 2015. That one was the order was issued, but the work was never done. But it was recorded against the chain of title of the property. They're now doing a refinancing, so they need a certificate of compliance on that one. So again, the work was never done. This would be the box on the COC checked invalid order of conditions. Order of conditions has expired without the work ever being started. So that's what this one is.
So are we saying that we don't have any leverage to hold them to do the work?
Correct, because it's expired. The order of conditions is expired.
Well, by work, you mean the construction work,
Right,
not some sort of eco stuff?
right. It was, I think it was to expand the parking lot. I
And they
didn't,
just didn't do it?
they just didn't, apparently they were trying to work out some land swap deals that,
Okay.
that never happened. So,
So they got far down the process and then killed it?
yep,
Got it, okay. But in the meantime, this COC is hanging out there?
that's right.
Got it, okay. So then we need a vote?
Right, to issue that certificate of compliance for an invalid expired order of conditions.
So I'll make a motion then that we issue a certificate of compliance for an invalid order of conditions for 265 Chelmsford Street.
Motion from Chris,
Second.
from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Sign. Sign your life away. Thank you, David. That's, that makes more sense now that you
Yes,
explain it that way. I
yes,
understand.
I-
Okay.
So 1 Lakeside Avenue, the 3 of you signed it, property's being sold. And then 265 is pretty clear.
That's right,
Yep.
yes,
Yep,
Well, we're just signing 265 here.
right.
yes.
Yep.
And that,
And we're essentially saying it was never done, it's an invalid
That's
order of
right.
conditions.
that's right.
So we're kind of like undoing our,
So it was
you
one
and
one
Chris
Lakeside.
and Dave and,
1
Right.
Lakeside is the one the home was built and the property's being sold?
Yes, and it's a re-sign. That
Okay.
appears the order was issued, but
Okay.
never recorded way back when.
But
okay, so we have,
we're not, excuse me, we're not signing on Lakeside.
Yes,
Oh, is that what that one is?
that was that, yeah.
it's just a re-sign.
Oh,
It's
I'm
not-
sorry, I
It's
got
not,
mixed
it's
up.
not a new
Got it,
issuance.
got it.
I-
Thank you.
Well, my
I got it.
apologies, I should have made that clearer.
I got it. Thank you.
And meeting minutes, we have 2 meeting minutes to review and approve. This is for June 11th and June 25th. If we can review those and,
I've got one point of clarification. So on the June 11th meeting, St. John Evangelist Church, so I recuse myself from that hearing. So if you could just add a note that I recuse myself from that one, it'd be great.
Other than that, I think we're okay. Anybody have any, need to look any more, or are you okay, or?
I was actually over at St. John Evangelist this past Sunday, and they had kind of a big event going on, and they used every parking space possible in that lot. It was kind of interesting. I ended up having to park across the street at I guess I could say this, is
Well-
Dolan's, yeah.
Did you take a look at the existing wet area to see if they could dig it out and create a new,
Going to do that next spring.
oh, in the spring? Okay.
Yes, yes, see if it's a vernal pool.
All right, I'll take a mission. I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 11th, 2024.
So moved.
Motion from Chris,
Second?
second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
We were all there, right? Yeah, we were all there. Yeah, you weren't there at the 25th, so the next one is, oh, you were absent. This says you were absent, but that's not right, on June 11th. That should be corrected
I don't think-
also,
No, I was there, yeah.
Vivian, on the 11th. Chris was there on the 11th, but he
I
recused
recused myself from the
himself.
St. John
From the-
Evangelist Church one.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got that?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go to the 25th.
I have to look at it.
You were done with Mickey, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was wondering where I was.
I can keep track of your schedule. Give you another minute here.
Well, actually, you know what, Vivian, double check on that one, okay? Maybe I wasn't there, I don't know. Is there anything on the tape at all that you could hear?
I'm gonna have to go back and look at
All
the
right.
video and see if you were there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not seeing your name in there anymore.
I know, I didn't make any motions, so I'm suspecting maybe I was.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think-
that might have been when I was, okay, I was traveling to Ireland that week. Oh,
Yeah, I think
strike
you
that.
did
You really
miss the
were
first
gone.
session.
That's right, I was gone. I was in Ireland that week, so
Okay.
So
All
we
right.
don't have to
Come.
make those
Don't
changes.
question Vivian.
I thought I had
Well,
one.
you should question me every single day.
I thought I had
All
one there
right.
for you.
I'll take a motion on the June 25th meeting minutes, not from Bill Vines, because he definitely wasn't there. Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second by John. All in favor, aye. Pass. Motion passes. Meeting minutes pass. And next week, there is an annual, I sent an email to you guys today, there's an annual, I don't know how annual it is, but it's an annual committee orientation meeting next 2 weeks from today, I think it is, September 24th at 6 PM at the library. So we have our conservation meeting at 7 o'clock, so this is you'll see it in the email, it has a number of agenda items, including KP Law talking about a few things. I won't be here for that meeting that night. Chris will be, Chris in charge, and so if you, keep that in mind. I won't be there. We're still down one person, so if you decide you want to go to the meeting at 6 PM at the library, don't put us at risk here. We're gonna be
Yeah,
a
we
little-
need a quorum.
We need a quorum.
We need a
so.
quorum.
All right, next, and then after that, the next meeting is October 8th. Anything else anybody want to add?
So I'm sorry, who's definitely not here on the 24th besides you and our vacant chair? Okay.
That gets us down to 5.
But this is in,
It's at the library.
who's coming first for that meeting? We have
It's Hildreth.
Hildreth Street?
Uh,
So do we have,
and then there's going to be an RDA as well. So, but I think Mark is going to be here on the 24th. isn't he?
Mark should be
Mark
here.
should-
Mark's just tonight, I think.
but
anyway.
has everybody, do we have to vote on Hildreth, that meeting?
It's
Uh,
very possible.
Possibly.
So do we have enough
If they're-
votes?
if they're
Do we have-
still-
Is everybody that's going to be here?
Yeah, that's a good point. You should go back and review if you missed any meetings.
Yeah,
And
I missed one.
and so you'll have to be Mullinized, and you're only allowed to miss one.
I did a mullen on the one I missed, so I can vote on it. So if you're going to be here and you missed one, you better do the Mullen if you've only missed one.
So I'll check the 11th, June 11th, see if they were on the agenda then. Maybe, Chris, you'll have to be Mullenized.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Are they in the minutes?
We're looking now.
I don't think,
I didn't think they were voting
I don't see them yet.
on Hilditch.
You haven't missed any?
No. but
yeah.
I don't
I
see them
thought
in
it
there.
was
They weren't on
outside
the
our
11th.
jurisdiction.
I think
Okay.
I'm good.
Close
I think
some
for
stuff.
some reason they weren't on the 11th.
They have the.
Yeah, they skipped a few times.
Yeah.
They were a handful.
So I'm good.
They heard you weren't going to be there, so they,
You know,
Okay.
it's funny, I thought about it, but the problem is Ireland was 6 hours like out in front. So it
coming
would have been
back
about
for us.
2 in the morning to
We
have
haven't voted.
dialed in from
no,
my
not,
hotel room.
don't be that hero. Because I don't want, when I'm in Scotland in 2 weeks, I don't want to be that hero. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Motion from Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
John
Aye.
seconds, all in favor, aye. Motion. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia.